Recently, I decided to get a new tent, and I wanted something to go with the larger tent that I normally camp in, just to have an extra tent so when I'm traveling with family or friends that I have a little more flexibility. And I decided I wanted something that was smaller, like a two-person tent. What I have right now is a four-person tent, and I wanted a two-person tent because when you make a reservation at a campground, it's not always easy to see exactly how big your site is and how many flat areas are in the site before you get there. And if you have a couple of really large tents, you might have a problem at the site. So I wanted to get something that has smaller footprint so that I'd have that flexibility when I go on camping trips. I also wanted a tent that could handle as many seasons as possible. I typically am a 3-season camper. If I'm going to really cold areas, I live in Southern California, so the weather's pretty moderate here, even in the wintertime. I can do desert camping. But I wanted a tent that would take me down into like the low 30s or the high 20s in temperature if possible, but also a tent that would have enough mesh so that in the summertime I'm comfortable in that tent. I wanted a good price. I wanted it to be from a company that has a pretty good reputation, and I wanted to be able to pick a color that fits with my personal style, that's more stealth camping, blending in with the natural environment. And I also wanted it to be small enough so that, because I want to have a backup when I go on any camping trip, I'm typically using my larger tent, but I want to also carry this extra tent in my car so that if I do have something catastrophic happening to the large tent and I'm by myself or with one other person, that I would have this extra backup tent to use. At the end of my research, I ended up picking the OneTigris Stella 2-person 4-season tent. And I just want to mention here at the outset that I don't have any relationship with OneTigris. That's just going through the evaluation of the criteria and the personal decision that I came to. But of course, you're going to have to do your own research and come up with the brand and the style that fits your needs. The bag with all the contents is approximately 21.5 inches long and about 6 inches in diameter. The tent itself comes with a bag, the inner tent, the rain fly, an aluminum pole set, and 10 aluminum stakes with poles. Also, there are 4 adjustable 2.5 millimeter, 8-foot long guidelines, and the overall weight of everything is 4.8 pounds. I purchased the footprint separately. This tent does come with pretty nice aluminum poles. Let's take the four corners first and attach them to the ground. Okay, so I've got the inner tent set up. The ground cloth is under it, and this tent comes with a door on both sides, exactly the same thing. I'm going to show you that in more detail in a bit. But I want to point out to you that when this unzips, there's a fabric inner and a mesh outer, which is fabulous because when you have this set up for warm weather in the summertime, if you tie back the fabric on the inside or of each side, then you can get a great airflow through this tent. Or in the wintertime, after I put the rain fly over, it's a complete fabric interior, unless you want to vent in a couple of spots. Rain fly buckles into the corners. Okay, so now the tent is completely guyed out. I had guy lines which were included for the four corners, and the ones that they have on the ends over on this side and on this side were short and they were non-adjustable, so I replaced those from my own stock so that I could make those a little more adjustable. There were also only 10 tent stakes, so I did 4 around the ground cloth and inner, and then I did 4 for the 4 corners of the guy lines coming out. That's 8, plus the 2 on the ends, that's 10. So that eats them all up. So I did not have, I could have used 2 more, one for this side and one for the other side. So I'm using my own tent stakes there. That often happens. I'm not sure why the manufacturers would do that other than to save cost, but obviously you're going to want to use 12 tent stakes if you really want to get the whole thing out. So those were 2 little things that I had to deal with. The tent comes with storm flaps over the zippers down here, and they are YKK zippers, which are good quality. The fly is silicon treated 20D nylon. The manufacturer states that the rain fly has blackout technology, which is nice. That means it blocks out a lot of the brightness of the sun, so if you're sleeping past sunrise, it'll give you a little more of a comfortable environment inside. The inner tent fabric is 20D nylon. The floor is 40D nylon, and the outer fly and the floor are 3,000 millimeters. This tent has a yellow-orange inner tent and an olive-green outer fly. It's also available with a white inner and a black outer option. You can also purchase a one-person version of this tent. And as a quick aside, there is an original version of the black-white tent that did not have mesh on the doors, only fabric. So that tent, if you're interested in it, it'll be fine in the cooler weather, but with no mesh on the inner, it's something that you probably don't want to consider for summer use. I would go with this newer version too. Okay, let's do some dimensions from the corners, approximately 81 inches long. And about 48 inches wide. Now that would be the outer footprint, not the inner part of the tent. Let's do that next. Height of the tub around the tent is approximately 8 inches tall. Looks like about 75 inches long, which is 6 feet 3 inches. And the width is about 41 inches. If you're a tall person and you're laying in this, I measured about a foot up from the bottom, and you're looking at 73 inches approximately, and so that's 6 foot 1 inch. Your head and your feet, if you're laying on your back with your feet straight up in the air, would just touch the outer edges there. The height of the tent in the middle is 3 feet 7 inches, which is a pretty good height. Looking at the vestibule area, and again, this is on both sides. I'll just show it to you on this side. You can see there is some space there for storing equipment, but it is a limited space. And I guess you have to think about your use case. If it's just you by yourself, you have plenty of room inside for equipment. So this would be, because it's a 2-person tent, so this would just be kind of an extra area. If you had 2 people in the tent, it would be pretty full up with just 2 of you. So any equipment that you want to keep nearby would have to be in this vestibule area on each side. If it's just you with a pet, maybe a dog, there's probably plenty of room for you, your dog, and your equipment inside the tent. I want to show you here, you can unzip the fabric on the inner, leaving the mesh. So during the day, you can get some ventilation inside the tent so it doesn't get too stuffy. And this is mainly, you're going to use this in the warm summer weather for your ventilation. And then this would go on if it's really cold outside. And then I want to mention you can see it here, the rain fly goes down, not all the way to the ground. And this is, I guess, a compromise, because if you want this tent to be used in the warm summers and in the cooler weather, you have to give ventilation in the summer. And if it's completely zipped up, like if it's raining or something, this way air can get up underneath the rain fly and then into the mesh area of the tent. And in the cold weather, though, that is a point where the cold weather can come up from underneath. But if you have your fabric interior there, that'll help you down to a certain point. But that is an issue if you're going into some super cold weather or snow. I will say at this point, I think this is a really good size overall for a 2-person tent. The dimension across the inner that I mentioned, you'll want to weigh that against the size of your air mattresses if you're using an air mattress or a pad. If you do have 2 in here, you'll want to make sure they don't exceed 48 inches for the width on the inside. So you'll want to have that as a consideration. I already mentioned if you're really tall, this tent will get you probably up to somebody who's 6'1". But if you're taller than that, I still think this might be a good choice, but you would have to probably sleep more on a diagonal for that. Inside the tent, there are 4 pockets, one near each corner, a large and a small on both sides, which is nice. And up in the top here is a hanging hook, which you could use for a light or a fan that's hanging. And then there are 4 little fabric loops, 2 here and 2 right behind me here. So you could string a clothesline or hang some kind of equipment from those spots as well. But overall, I think for a 2-person, this is a pretty good sized tent. All of the stitching in the tent, I think, looks really good. You can tell it's been taped on the interior and seam sealed on the exterior. I've already had this tent in the rain with moderate winds and the temperature down in the low 30s, and it performed well there. And I've seen other reviews that have tested this tent at even lower winter temperatures, warm weather, humid summer temperatures, high winds and heavy rain with pretty good reviews. But do your own research. This tent does have enough mesh and ventilation, I think, to do well in warm weather. It should also do well in colder weather. Keeping in mind, the reason I bought it is I'm not planning to go down to extreme cold. This tent has a lot of features for the price, which I haven't mentioned yet, but I will in a few minutes. But this is just a good all-around tent for me. I'm really happy with this purchase. Although I'm not a big backpacker, a 4-season nylon tent with a weight under 5 pounds is definitely doable for me. And the quality and the features for this price are exceptional. My previous experiences with OneTigris, customer service has been good. The price on Amazon at the time of this recording is $170 for this tent. Now that's without the ground fly. Which I don't remember, but it's probably about 30 bucks. So this is about a $200 thing if you get the ground cloth with it. And I think that's a really good price for a quality 2-person 4-season nylon tent with this level of features.